Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
Week 3 of Broncos OTAs wrapping up. Cecil Lammey, Rachel Vigil, and this should be a 2-quarterback battle competition. And although it is 3 and probably going to be at least far into training camp, it really should be 2. And it should be Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix, because Zach Wilson for the 3rd week in a row has not looked good. Cecil Lammey.
Yeah, I don't make a bold proclamation here in early June, but yeah, he's not the guy. Like, it's not happening. He's still got time. They can throw him on the practice squad or whatever. But if he doesn't make it with Sean Payton, who really wants him? You know, who really would want to take a chance, because you're with the ultimate quarterback whisperer, and it's just not good. We saw him with the first team on Tuesday. Sorry, getting days confused because they switched it up. So we didn't get to see Bo Nix with the first team. We saw Zach Wilson, and I'm like, can I just go back to seeing Bo Nix with the first team? I want to watch good football.
It was tough. And I don't know if, like, the whole thing, it just feels like stepchild, like, I don't know, Cecil. Even just like the talking, like they kind of joke around, but Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix like really sit there and talk, and Zach Wilson kind of seems to be off a little bit more to the side. Like the whole thing just feels so weird, and I kind of feel bad for Zach Wilson. I'm not gonna lie. Like it's an awkward situation. 3 quarterbacks, a 3 QB battle is just awkward all around.
Yeah, an awkward situation, and Sean Payton's still going to give him time, like at least from his post-practice presser, say that 3 times fast, where he was talking about, we really liked him coming out of BYU. Well, you shouldn't have. There were so many flaws to his game at BYU. They're comparing him to Pat Mahomes. Like, it was ridiculous. I never had Zach Wilson with the first-round grade. Doesn't mean I'm right on every quarterback, for the love of God. But, like, even I, who have biases towards the people that I liked coming out of college, you have to let that go. And now I want to start singing Frozen, like, let it go. Like, you have to let it go. Like, he's not that guy. He's probably never going to be that guy that you thought he might be. Like, let it go. Watch what you're seeing now. And what you're seeing now, another interception. At least it wasn't a pick 6 this time. True. I think the crowd got in the way, honestly, because I was like, oh, PJ Locke, there's a pick 6. And then the crowd kind of like, I don't know, another fight today. So it's just like, the Zach Wilson offense is not good. Jarrett Stidham is at least steady, and Bo Nix brings some excitement to the game.
Totally with you. And pretty much everything else, if you've watched all of Cecil and I's recaps, it's the same thing. Bo Nix is still out there high-fiving guys. He looks like the big cheerleader that just wants to be everybody's best friend. Jarrett Stidham still looks like the veteran guy who knows a little bit more of the system. But overall, it's kind of been the exact same thing. It was interesting to see Zach, obviously, with the 1s, because it was like, oh, well, is he just not having the chemistry because he's with the 3s and things haven't looked good? But it was kind of overall the exact same thing that we've seen. Let's talk about the fight, though, because anytime you bring up a fight, everybody, all the fans are like, well, who got in the fight? I actually didn't see who was on the opposite side, but I know it was Lucas Kroll. And who else was on the opposite side? Did you see?
Yeah, is it probably Zach Allen again? I'm not sure. We didn't see. You and I were standing there, and I was like, okay, there's Lucas Kroll. And then Quinn Miners was in the mix somehow. But I'm like, well, he's not fighting Lucas. So who's fighting Lucas? I don't know. But now it's 2 weeks in a row. Things are getting chippy out there. That's fine. You got mandatory minicamp next week. We'll be out there all 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That'll be awesome. And then after that, a break. And hopefully nobody gets arrested. But save the fights for the preseason.
Okay, so you and I are going to be out there. Courtland Sutton going to be out there because Sean Payton seems pretty confident that his wide receiver will be out there, but are you?
He left it open. Like, we did seem confident, but he also wasn't like for sure he's going to be there. He kind of left it open a little bit. It's mandatory. I believe Court will be out there. And I also believe, knowing Broncos PR, they're going to put him out in front of us. Like, and at the end of the day, you know, is it that big of a deal? Not really. And the request for more money might just fall by the wayside. Like, you don't have any leverage, Court. You got to show up to mandatory work, which is coming up in a week, and then training camp in August.
I'm going to be interested because obviously we're seeing CeeDee Lamb, even with the Cowboys, like he didn't go to mandatory minicamp. He took the fines. Sean Payton talked a little bit about those fines, you know, and he was like, I'm not trying to sit here and act like I'm threatening Courtland Sutton if he doesn't come out here, that he's going to get fined and all this kind of stuff. But I mean, a lot of wide receivers, a lot of players just in general tend to do this, Cecil, where if they're not going to go, like it's a statement, right? Like we're going to make a statement by not going. But in fact, I feel like sometimes it can have even more of a negative effect on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I feel with Court, like Bo Nix would look better with Courtland Sutton. Hell,
Yeah.
Jarrett Stidham would look better. Maybe even Zach Wilson. I don't want to be crazy, but like Courtland Sutton would make the team better. He would be their true number one, although Marvin might push a little bit more good stuff from Marvin
Ooh.
today. But it's like Court, I'm sorry things haven't worked out, but you can be part of the turnaround. You can be part of the turnaround by showing up and building chemistry with Bo Nix.
Yeah. Okay. The other name that I always get asked about every single time people are like, OTAs, what happened? It's Javonte Williams. And I hate to be the person to come out here and say it. There's something missing. And even he talked to the media today, and it's like super short, just kind of gave the answers, like nothing really. And it's so crazy because I told Cecil this. I remember catching up with Javonte after training camp practice. I think it was 2 years ago now at this point. And he like had this light in his eyes and he was talking about everything. And like, it was so exciting. He just seemed so down, Cecil, that I'm like, is our head not right? Like, what's going on? Are you hearing the talk about yourself? Like, I don't ever want to say somebody dealing with something behind the scenes because I don't know what people's lives look like, obviously, but it just did not seem like the Javonte Williams that I've had conversations with. And I was like, wow, I'm like shocked by this.
He seems unhappy.
Yes.
And I don't want to take too many strides forward in that sentiment, as you mentioned. Like, we don't know what's going on. I do know some of his advisors, and I don't think there's anything like that going on behind the scenes. And I think maybe he's been turned off in a way to us in the media. I'm not sure. He shouldn't be. We're usually very kind. Yeah. I've often said outside of Eric Goodman and D-Mac, we're a bunch of puppy dogs in the Denver media, and I'm fine. I'll be a puppy dog. I'm okay with that. But it's like, it's not like we're out there asking an expose, and all those sorts of things. But it's like, all right, maybe he's sick of dealing with the media, but he didn't deal with the media. And his press conference was like 2.5 minutes long and like 8 questions. And then that's it. So it's just odd. And then his performance on the field, which is what I care about. Yeah. Be however you want to the media. It's fine. We'll be fine. You'll be fine. Everybody's fine. But on the field, he doesn't look the same. Like, is his burst back a little? Yeah. So like when people and Sean Payton said last week, like, he's back. I'm like, no, he may be better than last year, but last year was terrible. Yeah. So like, is he back a little bit? Maybe, but we don't see the same old Javonte. And maybe it's just because we were there when he was different.
Yeah, I don't know. It mirrors it, right? Like, I bring up the unhappiness as he's answering questions from the press because it mirrors what we're seeing out on the field, it seems like. Like, there's no extra incentive to run the extra 5 yards. Like, catch, okay, I'm done, moving on. Like, his cuts aren't as clean. Like, there's just little things that you pay attention to that we're seeing out of the other guys who are really trying to probably make this team and make a first impression with Sean Payton and the coaching staff. And, like, Javonte doesn't do any of those things. And it's...
Well, Samaje does.
That's the thing. It's like, it's not just, hey, I'm a veteran guy, I'm out here. Like, Samaje Perine does do those, but it's not Javonte.
Yeah. And so when Jaleel does it, it's what Jaleel McLaughlin does. That's just who he is. When Blake Watson does it, it's because he's trying to beat out Jaleel McLaughlin and has to put forth that effort. And he does look really fantastic as well. But then when you see Samaje do it, it's like, okay, well, why aren't you running everything out? Like Tyler Beatty does it. So all the guys that are trying to prove themselves do it. But then Samaje, who's perfectly fine and maybe more on the bubble than Javonte, he runs plays out. So it's interesting. Maybe he flips the switch and turns it on, but I'm always very wary of players who flip a switch. And I don't ever think Javonte was that guy. I'm not saying he is that guy. I just don't know. Based on our observations, he doesn't look the same.
I am totally with you. I'm hoping that next week things look a lot different. It's more of a, all right, here we go type of thing. Because he also got asked today about his contract and how there's no guaranteed money left. And people were asking him if they were worried if he was going to get cut on the 53. And while I don't think that's going to happen, like, that has to be in somewhat the back of his mind. And we got to do it because what Court's trying to fight for more money. It's great that Javonte's still out here, even though he has no guaranteed money.
Yeah, and God bless Chris Thomason, because he'll ask the tough question and he just does it with a smile on his face. He's one of my dear friends, so I really appreciate him. And Javonte had to answer it. Wasn't a great answer because none of his answers really were, but like, I mean, it has to be on your mind. And what did you think when they drafted Audric Estime? Well, I'm just here to do my job. Okay.
Don't you want them to be honest sometimes, Cecil? Like, all the time. I'm like, just tell me how you actually feel. Like, I'm not going to judge you.
let's say Javonte was like kind of angry when he ran in practice. We'd be like, oh, he's fired up.
Yeah.
We don't see any of that.
None. It's been the
It's odd.
craziest shift. Yeah, it really has. From somebody who was talked about in every single week on, Good Morning Football and all of those shows of like, oh, Javonte Williams, this beast runner, obviously goes through the injury to now this. Like, we may not see very many highlights of Javonte at all. So another person, I don't know if you caught this a lot, but I noticed him popping off a little bit today. Michael Bandy. He had a really nice catch. He had like a touchdown catch with Jared Stidham. Jared Stidham runs over. I was impressed. Like, there were a couple good moves out of him today.
Yeah, that's why I don't agree with the Pro Football Focus, like 32nd ranked roster. Because Michael Bandy, who was generally pretty solid in every practice, there was last week when the drops were a problem. Nix put one on him that he had to slide for. Nix put it away from the defender, so Bandy had to get that. He didn't get that. This week, in a similar concept, he got it from Stidham. The defense wasn't as tight on this play, and then Stiddy runs down. But it's like, so Bandy's really good. He'd be a team's probably fifth receiver of any team in the league. But I put it like this to the great Steve Atwater, who, again, watching practice with a Hall of Famer just blows my mind. I said, I would take Jalen Virgil over almost any of the starters that you have in New England. Even a KJ Osborne or a Juju Smith-Schuster. Kendrick Bourne, when he's healthy, would be better. Yeah. Jalen Virgil might not make this team. And Bandy's behind him. So if we talk about Brandon Johnson, Little Jordan Humphrey, Michael Bandy, Jalen Virgil, we're not even to the Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Devon Vele section of the depth chart. They have talent. It's just unproven talent. And Bandy will do his best to push for the final roster. At the end of the day, it was probably on the outside looking in.
Yeah, no, 100%. I just noticed. Yeah, there were a couple plays today. I was like, oh, okay, I see you popping off just a little bit. You really only need a few things to get the eyes of coaches, and who knows what can happen from there. Also, did you notice who was running sprints on the hillside today?
I saw Bo Nix running sprints on the side. Who was on the hill?
On the hill, Greg Dulcich was out there running sprints up the hill, and I was like, interesting. Okay, so we didn't expect to see him for OTAs or mini camp. Sean Payton kind of made it talk about that with his rehab, but it was interesting to see him up there running the hillside.
Yeah, and it was interesting after practice, coach was asked about Lucas Kroll again, and he was like, we kind of see him like we see Dulcich. So there's your answer. Like, as excited as y'all were about Greg Dulcich, which is fine. He's an amazing talent. He just can't stay healthy. You should be as excited, if not more, for Lucas Kroll.
Does that mean bye-bye, Greg Dulcich?
Yeah. I mean, just the way this roster is constructed, is he going to play special teams? Probably get him hurt. You know what I mean? And Sean Payton did go on and on for half an hour, most of it about special teams. But roster construction will be different. And that means guys like Dulcich who don't play special teams, if you're a running back that doesn't play special teams, see ya. It's just not going to happen.
Also, are you so sick of the special teams questions? I'm like, yes, it has changed. Things are drastically changing. Yes, Sean Payton's going to make a baseball reference about how it's going to be looking for the fly ball, and all of a sudden he's got to snap his head back to look at his receiver, whoever's going to take off. I'm like, we've had these conversations week after week, everyone. We get it. It has changed.
Yeah, it's different, and we don't get to see it yet.
I know.
That's something Steve and I were talking about as well. Like, we don't get to see the new kickoffs. We see punts practice. Those are just regular. We see kicks. I think he had a better day today. I usually zone out when it's special teams, Rachel. I apologize. But, I think Willette's had a better day than last week. Last week it was terrible.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be different, and I'm kind of done with the questions.
Me too. I'm definitely done. Okay, the other one, Riley Moss, back with the ones today. Good to see. What's the high, what's the ceiling for Riley Moss this year?
Well, you're going to get a lot of passes thrown your way. So if you don't get more picks than Pat Surtain, because Surtain's just not going to get thrown at.
Yeah.
Surtain's going to get a couple. You should get 4, and you're going to get picked on. The advanced data is probably not going to be kind, but as long as it's not 110% completion, I know that's impossible. But last year, Damari Mathis, speaking of advanced data, it was almost a touchdown every time you threw at him. You just went after him. He lost his confidence. He made some plays today, although there was one play, I think it was on Mims, where it was put out there by Nix down the field. It's going to be a big play, and Mims didn't get there because he was getting pulled on by Damari Mathis, and then Mathis was dabbing up guys in the end zone. It's
right on the sideline.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You held on that play.
Yeah.
That's the reason why Marvin Mims couldn't get to that ball.
Agreed. It's so funny to see because obviously you can't touch the offense, right? Like there's no pads on. Like it's very clean and nice, and they tell people they're like, stay up, like don't fall down, all sorts of stuff. But you watch the defense celebrate so more than the offense. And so I always just laugh because I'm like, well, yeah, it's so much easier for you guys than it is for the offense to make really like shiny plays at this moment. Granted, we have seen quite a few good touchdowns as well. So I guess it kind of goes a little bit of both ways, but I'm going to be interested to see what this defense looks like, what this core is going to look like without Justin Simmons. I know people are kind of sick of the Justin Simmons questions of like, okay, how is he going to get replaced with PJ Locke? Like, will he be able to step up? I think the secondary is going to be one of those things in training camp that you're watching every single day to see how they line up against the wide receivers like Courtland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Marvin Mims, etc. Because I wouldn't grade those three that I just named as the highest talent in the NFL, but if they're able to, put on a nice show against them, then it gives me a little bit more hope when you actually line up against some of the best.
Cornerback might be more interesting to watch than quarterback because we all know that all roads lead to Bo Nix. Eventually, it's going to be Bo Nix. Is that week 1? Is it week 6? I don't know. It better be not from after week 6. Anyway, but it's like corner could be any combination. Secondary, safety can be any combination. And how do they replace Justin Simmons? It's going to be the aggregate of Cody Barton. It's going to be the aggregate of PJ Locke, Brandon Jones. Also interesting to note that when asked about JL Skinner, because Sean was chatty today. So on a chatty Sean day,
32 minutes. That's how long he talked today.
Chatty Sean day, some would like to take advantage of those questions. He was asked about JL Skinner. He said it's safety for now. And I was like, what? I wanted to follow up, but then it would have been 40 minutes. So I was like, I'll leave the follow up alone. But it was just interesting. Like, oh, it's still safety. I think that was the direct quote. Like, what's your vision for JL Skinner? It's still safety. Well, wait, would it be something else?
Yeah.
Would it be ILB? Because it ain't corner. True. So it's like, all right, maybe ILB, maybe Isaiah Simmons type thing. Either way, I know this. You mentioned how fun the defense will be to watch this year. Vance Joseph is on the hot seat 1,000%. If there's any sort of struggles, it will be blamed on Vance Joseph. So good luck.
He knows it too. Like he's been a little bit more intense, I would say, on the sidelines than in previous years. Not like nothing too crazy, but like there's a difference when you see how guys react and such when somebody is on the hot seat. And so that was one thing I found interesting is like Vance Joseph in past years has been a lot of smiles and like he's hanging out and it's all like dudes throwing on the sidelines kind of thing. It's been different, I would say, the past 3 weeks that we've been able to watch him. Like he's very much like, we're being snappy. This is what we're doing, that kind of stuff. And same with his staff too. It's been a little bit more snappy. So I don't know if that's Sean Payton just rolling over into this or what, but it's been a little different. So I've noticed that. You
won't be able to blame the offense anymore. Why can't you guys hold on to the lead against Washington? Why can't you guys like help it? And it ties together. This goes back to Javonte, honestly, because your run game and your defense are tied together. When you can run the ball, use up time of possession, wear down an opponent's defense, continue to move the chains, keep the clock running, your defense is over there drinking Gatorade. When you're not able to do that because your running back, Javonte, is averaging 3.2 yards a carry, well, then guess what? Your defense is back out there. They're getting tired. This year, they will have solved the run game. Now they need to solve stopping the run. I believe that's when JFM, which is what I'm going to call him, and Malcolm Roach, who is very vociferous on the practice field. That's where those guys come into play. And I think the running game and stopping the run will be more simpatico this year.
It's going to be interesting. Is there anything else that you've been really trying to pay attention to? Again, we're not offered a whole lot when we watch all these practices, but is there anything that's caught your eye?
Yeah, I continue to watch Blake Watson make plays. Like, again, I'm not saying he's the best back here, but you don't need to take him off the field.
Yeah.
If he can prove his pass protection, it was interesting when Sean talked about Jaleel McLaughlin, when he called him a change of pace receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So his vision is kind of set. Mm-hmm. Like Jaleel McLaughlin's making this team. In fact, he's probably the one running back I could say for sure. Even Audric Estime, wouldn't be a total lock, although I think he is. But Jaleel's got a role, but that role isn't beyond change of pace receiving back. Yeah. Blake Watson can do that, and he can carry it on first and second down. So I'm watching that and continue to watch Cody Barton in coverage because that's his forte. We saw a play today that got away from him on what probably would have been a sack. But it was over the middle to Lucas Kroll, and Barton was right there afterwards. He clapped his hands. He was so upset with himself. I was like, okay, Barton, you got to make that play. Even if it would have been a sack in a game, you've got to make that play on the ball. So I'm continuing to watch that.
And I like that he knows it. He knows he should have had that one too. You can always tell from some of the movements they do. Let's just real quick, if you had to guess running backs week 1, who are you going with?
We don't know about Estime, so still Javonte, and Samaje, who knows? So if it was Javonte and Blake Watson and Jaleel McLaughlin as a change of pace, that would be interesting. But again, special teams is going to come into play. If you're Audric Estime and if you don't beat out Javonte, are you playing special teams?
Fair.
Jaleel will, as a returner. He's not a big guy. Blake Watson can. He's a dangerous returner. So, like, you've got some options in the backfield. A lot of tough decisions for this team. A lot of it. And you don't – here's the thing, and back to the PFF thing. I'm sorry. You don't have tough decisions if you don't have talent. True. I can look at multiple positions, running back, tough decisions, wide receiver, tough decisions. How many offensive linemen we want you to keep? Tough decisions. Even at the secondary spot we were talking about, you've got some tough decisions. If they were a bunch of slappies, you could make the 53 right now. We can't even guess the running back room yet.
True.
That doesn't happen because they have a lack of talent. So again, I have plenty of friends that work for PFF. I'm not against advanced data like some, and I honestly think it's a little naive to be either too pro analytics or too against analytics. The answer's somewhere in the middle. But this whole, the Broncos have the worst roster, like, that's not true at all.
You can say that for your headlines 100%. There is a lot of talent on this squad. It's going to be fun to watch all of the battles. It's going to give us something to talk about for sure. So make sure you tune into Orange and Blue today, every single weekday, as well as Coffee Break. Denver Sports Daily catches you up on all the headlines as well, 10 a.m. every single day. So plenty of good stuff. Cecil Lammey, you want to send it off? I know you got 3 words you want to say.
Stay frosty?
No. Oh, close. Subscribe.
Okay. Oh, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid.
Make sure you come hang out with us. Plenty of good stuff. Mini camp next week, and we will see you guys all later. Bye, everybody.